So this is just a final note for the last episode of Chuang Asia. These are my final thoughts. I still got a sickness. I caught something, so I've been out of commission for like 2 weeks, and I still got it. So I'm still sick, but I've just got to finish this because it's the finale, and I won't have another chance. So I don't know what I got. Some kind of bird flu, or Chinese cringe AIDS or something. But I have a really sore throat, and I've been coughing a lot. But anyways, live debut night was kind of awkward. I noticed that a lot of guest mentors and the guests were just basically former Chuang trainees. And, a lot of girls were saying that they waited years to go on this show and get the chance to debut. So to me, that kind of confirms that it is really just an extension of Produce Camp China, but they can't do it in China. And I was guessing already at that point that the final group would be mostly Chinese, which I already mentioned about like two or three episodes ago. But anyways, for this finale, they had this new MC guy. I can't remember his name, but he had a pretty good energy. I feel it was good to have a host for this show, and I feel like that's something that was always lacking because it was kind of like weird. But there's just random times at the very beginning where his expressions were maybe too much. But other than that, I kind of like eventually just eased into it and I liked it. And so, final thoughts on this. And I don't know if I should go back and talk about the other episodes that I didn't get to cover, but I think there's no point at this point. But anyways, there was the final battle between Group 1 doing Into the New World, Group 2 doing Vroom Vroom. I thought the Into the New World performance was kind of okay. The outfits were kind of weird. But one thing I noticed is that the group didn't gel together. Like all these girls in that group together, it didn't feel right. And I don't know if that's just a lack of practice. But it just kept showing like there were like four individual girls who, if you say there were four girls that stood out to you, and then they didn't feel like a group when you put them together. Whereas with Vroom Vroom, I felt that performance was way more watchable. When they performed, it seemed more uniform, and the outfits, it made it seem like they fit together well as well. And I felt like the performance should have gone harder for the kind of performance they had, for the kind of uniforms they had, because they're in like these kind of like biker girl uniforms, right? And so it was kind of like Itzy's Voltage style of uniform. But the performance didn't go that hard. And then the only last note is that Duna, she didn't pick the obvious song this time. And so I guess we can be proud of her for that. She didn't choose the typical, make the typical choice. She went outside of her comfort zone here. And so throughout the course of the night, they did do this one thing where they announced places 8, 9, and 10, and 11, which was Emma, Dee, Arjing, and Eileen. And I think that they really wanted to push for more votes for Arjing and Eileen, because on merits, Eileen and Arjing should have been in the top 10, top 9. And so, and it would have rounded out the group way more. Like, there are certain people who should have made this group no matter what, right? Like Emma, Arjing, and Eileen, I feel like they should have been in the tops. And then you get to the special unit show where there's 3 groups of 6. And so you have Say Yes, Be Mine, and Best Friend. And so for you Say Yes, I felt like, well, my live feed actually got choppy while I was watching this, so there were times when it cut out. But I noticed that, what was it, Wang Kei, she didn't seem like she was singing well, but she did get a chance to sing. And then the other thing of note is that Krista, she seemed like she didn't really want to be there. She was really uncertain. And even though she was singing better than she did, for Krista, sorry, I have to cough. For Krista, even though I think I knocked her singing a few episodes ago, but I've otherwise actually been always behind Krista. But I knocked it because of her. She was singing it strangely with affectation, But this time, even though she was singing okay, she seemed kind of low energy, and so I felt like she didn't want to be there. And then for Be Mine, I noticed that our Jing's vocals were really good, and that at this point I was thinking too that the group was really balanced, and in fact the three subgroups here were actually kind of balanced, and so I felt like they should almost just debut three of these units instead of the whole group of nine, because it seemed like the way they separated these girls into these groups, it fit well for them. Also during the Be Mine, before they actually performed, they showed a package for each of the girls. And I noticed that during one point they actually showed Duna crying when she made the first cut. And I thought that I wondered why they didn't show that during the season, because it felt like she didn't really care during most of the season. And she was kind of always standoffish. They didn't show her a lot of emotions. And so I feel like she may have gotten like some kind of strange edit. But if they showed way more emotion from her, way more stuff behind the scenes, she probably would have more likely got further in the show. Well, she got to the end, but I mean, her rank would have been higher. And then for Best Friend, I felt like this was a good performance. And during this performance, Emma and Eileen stood out the most, and I felt like both of those girls should have been scoring way higher than they did. And so that was basically my thoughts on the performances. In terms of the top nine, the final group is called Genies with a 1 in where the I should be. I actually wrote it down wrong here. It says, I wrote an I after the 1, and so it looks like Jen lies, but it's not. It's Genies. There's no. I don't think there's a I there after the 1. Yeah. But anyways, that's a weird group name. I actually don't like any of these new group names with the numbers in them. I don't know why they're doing it. It seemed like lazy. I don't know who's the first to do it. But these formulaic kind of following things are like not very creative. But anyways, in terms of this top 9, I'm not really feeling most of it. I'm happy to see Ruan's there, but I'm not happy to see Ruan there. I'm glad Yin and Pailu debuted, if only just because it's Chuang at Thailand, and there's barely any foreigners that are not Chinese, I guess. And then I do respect the fact that Zhu Yao got to debut, because in terms of the voting audience, it seemed like they had a lot of respect for kind of these veterans who didn't get to debut. And I wish that was a thing, because I remember on Universe Ticket, Lee Sun-woo didn't get to debut. But, I do respect the idea of long-time trainees getting a chance and people backing them. But at the same time, I would have never picked this top 9. I would have picked a different top 9. I would have chosen a much different top 9 that has both skill and visuals all combined and stuff. And it wouldn't consist of all of these people. But I know why some of these people are here. Regarding like Didi, Ellen, and Pailu, is because of their base. But then I look at the votes, and all the votes are pretty close. Now, the show kept saying, like, in place number 8, Didi, 48 million, right? Ruwan in number 2, 54 million. Chow Yu at 84 million, and number 1. But those aren't really, like, individual people who are backing them, right? Because I think the votes, like, if I clicked on one person to vote, that person gets 350 votes. And so, really, Chow Yu on her own got 240,000 votes max, right? And Ruan got, like, 154,000 votes. And then Didi in 8th place got 137,000 votes. And so, that was, like, way more, I think, accurate in terms of, like, the numbers and the way it's divided. And then in terms of the people watching the show live on WeTV, it was like 800,000. So that kind of makes sense to me. I'm not sure how many people watch it after the fact. Regarding after the live show, probably it'll be like 5 to 6 million, maybe more. But yeah, I don't really believe that there's 84 million people voting for Chow Yu. she just got that many votes because of the way. I don't know why they would even do that. Like give you just round it up like that. Give you 350 million if by pressing the button one time. Oh, sorry, 350 votes by pressing the button one time. But anyways, that's that. That's the top 9 genies. It's I feel like I did go back and watch all the other produce caps before the show started, so I don't really know what Bon Bon Girls and Rocket Girls are up to. And to be honest, even though I watched the shows and saw them debut and stuff, and I looked at them performing today in like a clip of each of them, and I didn't recognize any of them. And so I didn't follow them. Obviously, I kind of rushed through those shows, so I didn't have time to get attached to them. But something tells me it's not going to be much different. In terms of, I watched a lot of survival shows at the same time this year, and so I have to go see what's going on with Miai, which is from Produce Japan. I like that show a lot better in terms of their final lineup as well. And then Universe Ticket, I feel like they had a very good debut lineup, even though it was kind of rigged, but I kind of like that it was rigged. And then there's also the 2 JYP shows, Easy Project Season 2, and then also A2K. And Vicha debuted in A2K, and I feel like I really like Vicha. That's a pretty good group. And so something tells me that I'm probably not gonna watch as many survival shows as I used to, because they seem to all have the same pattern, and I seem to be kind of like really unsatisfied with them. But I do like the JYP shows. I feel like the way the judges select the talents, I feel like is a lot better than the way the public decides. But anyways, I guess that's it. Overall, I would say I think that they were very kind on this show to all the trainees and encouraging to them. But I feel like they should have been harder. I feel like that's a necessity. I know that people watching at home like the positivity, and I understand why you like it. And it makes sense that you would, because a lot of times Hollywood gets things wrong. Like there are people who watch shows like reality shows, and so you have like shows like The Bachelor, which are all full of drama, and then you'll see like season 1 of The Bachelor New Zealand where there's no drama, and that's like a good show. And so sometimes they do this stuff, they milk drama. I don't know if they do it for a news cycle, but I feel like a show's better without drama. But I'm not saying that being mean to contestants is drama or anything. I feel being honest and being critical of them is really more helpful to them, because then they can improve. Last thing of note, Ruan really wanted the first place, but she couldn't get it, and it shows how big the gap was for her. She was behind by 100,000 voters, and so what that really means is that she was just magnitudes away from that first spot. But I actually recognize Ruan in terms of her visibility way more than Chow Yu Yu. I can't say I understand where the Chow Yu Yu stuff came from, because I don't feel like she's very expressive, and every time I've seen her perform, even ever since the beginning, I didn't really know where it came from. And then at the same time, I did mention that with regards to CSR, because my number 2 was Duda, I didn't really feel like the CSR people were real contestants. And I said the same thing about how I didn't feel like Cherry Bullet, whenever they're on any show, are real contestants. I feel like they're just there and to like, I don't know, help the people train and perform, or just they're just used to being on the shows, and so they're just good to have there, and maybe they get paid for it. And at the same time, I'm not entirely sure how many of these shows are legitimately survival shows and people are actually voting for all these people. Maybe they did have a legitimate chance. I don't know. I'm just saying, I'm not entirely sure I believe it. And so with that respect, maybe that's why I don't understand the top 9, is that I don't know why some of these people got votes, because they weren't highlighted much. But some of them I do. But anyways, I guess that's it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like it, give it a thumbs down. I know that I probably sound congested, because that's the way I feel. And I guess that's all. If you're not subscribed, consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video.